Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. All three commissioners are present. It was properly posted on September 12th. District 3.
Yes, for our prayer and pledge today, I've got Angela Presley. She comes to us via North Carolina and a stop on Amazon and 40 other countries. She's the Global Missions and Outreach for Crossings Church in Edmond, and she's going to lead us in our prayer today.
Thank you so much, and what a privilege it is to be with you today. And just want to say thank you for your service to our community. Let us pray together. Almighty One, as we come before you this morning, Lord, the verse that you've impressed upon my heart over these individuals is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It says to trust in the Lord with all your heart and to lean not in your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge you, and you will direct our paths. And so, Father, as I lift up this team to you, I thank you for their service, and I thank you for the appointment that you have placed them very specifically in these roles at just such a time like this. And I pray, God, that as they fix their gaze on you, that you will lead them and guide them and direct them according to your statutes, God. Lord, I pray that they would not lean on their own understanding. And while I am so grateful for their education and their background and their experience and all that they bring to this moment, Lord, I just ask that you would lead them with great wisdom in a way that only you can. Father, I pray that you would give them strength and that you would give them perseverance. I can only imagine how daunting it is when they come together and all of the things that they have to discuss and work through. And so I just ask, Almighty One, that you would lead them, you would help them to bring order out of chaos, that you would help them to see clearly. And Father, as I hold this agenda in my hands, Father, all of the things that have to be discussed today, Lord, I lift it up to you, and I pray that you would guide them through it. Lord, that you would grant them wisdom. Father, I pray that as they serve our community, that you would replenish them too, that they would not grow weary in doing good, but Lord, that they would truly honor you in everything that they do. May your grace rest upon them and on their families, and may you be glorified in all things. In your great name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 5th?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we have the opening of the bids.
Good morning. We have one bid this morning, bid number CW24022-1. This bid is for grocery products. One bid received from ASAP Transit LLC. And this concludes the bids. Thank you.
Is there a motion they be tabulated and returned?
I'll move it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is the claims.
I'll move our claims.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No change to the blanket. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
In our consent docket, we have a resolution on item 6. District 1, would you like, well, what number is it?
It's item 16.
16,
and we can just approve the consent docket minus item 16.
Second.
So I'll move approval of the consent docket without item 16.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, do you want to address item 16?
Yes. So we have some guests here today. Meg, would you like to bring your group up? So Meg is with the Office of Suicide Prevention with the Department of Mental Health, and she has brought some of her colleagues with her. You may or may not know that this week, September 10th through 17th, is National Suicide Prevention Week. And I wanted to recognize the week and let DMH talk a little bit about what they do. And then in a minute, I want to recognize John and Julie. So go ahead, Meg.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us to be here today, Commissioner. I have with me this morning Andrea Hammer Edmondson. She is our Senior Manager of Harm Reduction and Suicide Prevention. Daisha Dillard is with us. She is a Program Field Representative for Suicide Prevention. My name is Meg Cannon. I am the Program Manager for Suicide Prevention. And this is John Geddes, who you will learn a little bit more about in a few moments. And then over here, we also have Bonnie Campo, who is our Senior Manager of Public Relations and Marketing. Thank you so much for recognizing the importance of Suicide and Overdose Reduction Month and Prevention Month. In the state of Oklahoma, we experience a suicide every 11 hours. That means that by this time tomorrow, we will have lost at least 2 of our fellow Oklahomans to suicide. For us, that's way too much. So our office works with communities. We work within schools, faith communities, veterans populations, tribal populations, and workplaces, as well as many others, to do all we can to prevent suicide. We work with kids as young as age 4 to begin working on those prevention skills, to build a way for them to understand how to cope and understand how to have a trusted adult that they can turn to in times of need or in times of stress. We do prevention all the way up through the end of life, through seniors and older adults as well. So again, thank you so much for recognizing us. It's an honor to be here, and thank you.
You want to read the resolution?
Yes, and I'll let everyone know who John is. John Getty's mother, Julie, worked in suicide prevention in the state of Oklahoma for 25 years and was actually my first boss out of grad school when I worked on a suicide prevention program through the Department of Mental Health. And she taught me almost everything I know about suicide prevention and suicide response and how to go into a community and help them heal after a suicide. And especially in schools, how to train the administrators and the parents and the teachers on how to create an environment in their school that supports adolescent mental health. So I wanted John to be here because Julie recently passed away, and I wanted to recognize her and her contribution to our state. She probably saved many lives, and I know that John is her surviving son. So I wanted John to be here to see this resolution and be recognized. So you don't have to say anything, but if you would like to, you can. Okay. So this is a resolution recognizing September 10th through the 16th as Suicide Prevention Week in Oklahoma County. This proclamation recognizes suicide as a national and a statewide public health problem, and suicide prevention as a national and statewide responsibility, and designates September 10th through the 16th as National Suicide Prevention Week. And in Oklahoma, this week overlaps with World Suicide Prevention Day, which was September 10th. It is recognized internationally and supported by the World Health Organization. Whereas suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the United States and the 3rd leading cause of death among children and teens aged 10 to 19. And it is also the 2nd leading cause of death among individuals between ages 20 and 34. In the United States, over 45,000 people die by suicide, and that was numbers from 2020. Suicide rates have increased 30% over the last 2 decades, with rates finally decreasing a little over 2% in the last couple of years. Whereas it is estimated that in 2020, which we know was a very rough year, there were 1.2 million suicide attempts. It is the 9th leading cause of death in the state of Oklahoma. And in 2021, over 800 people died by suicide. Whereas over 90% of the people who die by suicide have a diagnosable and treatable mental health condition, although often that condition was not recognized or treated. Organizations such as the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention are dedicated to saving lives and bringing hope to those affected by suicide through research, education, advocacy, and resources for those who may have lost someone to suicide. So therefore, be it resolved that the Oklahoma County Board of County Commissioners does hereby declare September 10th through 16th as Suicide Prevention Week in Oklahoma County. Approved this 13th day of September 2023. I will move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Do you want a photo?
Yes. And other than 988, are there any resources you would like to share? And maybe it's just 988.
We have several resources. 988 is obviously our primary resource. It's Oklahoma's mental health lifeline, so it's not solely for suicide prevention. In fact, we actually encourage people to call before there's a crisis. If you need to know how to help a family member who is struggling, you can call. You can ask those questions. We have trained professionals available 24 hours a day who can help you. My program also offers training throughout communities. You can reach out to us and we can schedule trainings. For adults 18 and over, we offer a training called Talk Saves Lives. It's only about 45 minutes long, and it helps the layperson who maybe doesn't have a background in mental health prevention to know what to do if someone is potentially experiencing signs of suicide. It helps you figure out what those warning signs are and then know exactly what steps to take to get that person to help. We have programs we offer for schools. We have online programs, all sorts of different things. Commissioner Bloomer has my contact information. So if you find someone who is interested, please do share it. And again, 988 also can connect you with us and with anything that you need.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we'll do a quick photo. We're going to get you one that will. Thank you for being here. Nice to meet you.
Oh. Okay, District 1.
Item 18 is something we have been working on for a while between Oklahoma County and the district court for us to have an official MOU for the payment that the court provides the county each year, just so that both parties know what's expected. And we have Judge Ogden and Judge Andrews, and I believe Renee is here to answer any questions, but I believe that the courts are happy with this. And I believe Renee has Ms. Askin signed off on this. She's not a party. Okay. 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 Any questions?
I appreciate your work
Okay.
on it.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And then item 19 is an agreement with Middale Public Schools for us to work on Pleasant Hill Elementary and to help them install a basketball court. And I believe the school is going to pay for materials, and I believe we are donating labor and equipment. So I will move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Joe, can you refresh my memory on 20 and 21?
Yes, Commissioners. 20 and 21 are copier contracts. 20 is the downtown office, 21 is the yard.
I'll move approval of items 20 and 21.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 22 is to do a mile of road in Choctaw. This is where the city will reimburse us for the cost of materials. I'll move the item.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Engineering? Yes, number 23 concerns the county-owned property that I believe you leased to the Joshua Foundation a few meetings ago. This is to get a survey and easement work done so that we can build a fence around that property and have some more information about what we can and can't do on that property, or that Lacey can not do on that property. You have a question?
Go right ahead.
Okay, move the item.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 24 is the design contract for the elevators in the annex, the courthouse, and the JJC. These are ARPA-funded projects. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And item 25 concerns property we own at 29th and Sooner. The Air Force has asked for an easement to protect the flight path of their aircraft. It's right in the flight path. So this gives them an air easement through that 29 acres.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Eric?
This item is a REAP grant that has been completed. It was something that we worked on with the town of Valley Brook District 2. There was a drainage channel that is off of Eastern and Southeast 59th in the southwest corner of that intersection. We went in there and cleaned that channel out of all the silt and debris that had built up over the years. And so this is just the necessary paperwork to turn in ACOG to get reimbursement. So we received the grant funding.
Which, when he says we've cleaned it out, I mean, we're talking about truck loads. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'll move the item.
This is the second time this has been cleaned out, right?
Maybe even the third since I've been in office, I think.
Do we know what's silting it in?
Oklahoma City's.
Have we talked to them to fix their problem?
Actually, we contacted Oklahoma City this time to address some of the debris that's in there. They did contact us back and state that they were going to go on their side, which is the north side, to clean that out as far as the debris. But it's just development over the years. That portion that we cleaned out was concrete,
Yeah.
but as you go north is just natural earth. So as erosion occurs, you have that buildup.
Gotcha. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jessica? Or do you want Jamie? Jamie, go ahead. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Good morning, commissioners. So we've got a couple items just to update you on the status of your ARPA projects. So if the first, are we able to pull up the proposal tracker? We'll do this one. In your, I think item number 27 was the proposal tracker. Yeah, this is the presentation for 28 is the, oh, no worries. So in your attachments was the proposal tracker. So if you look through that, that kind of shows you all your 80 projects, what's the status of your projects. You'll see if in color coded, all those greens are the one that we're going to close out today. They've been fully expended. There's nothing else on those projects other than ongoing reporting. So the next you'll see are yellow projects. Those are all your infrastructure projects that are being watched over and looked over in the infrastructure board. And then you'll see another set of projects that are in blue. They're currently ongoing. And then we've got a couple that haven't started yet. And then if you go further down your tracker, you'll see the subrecipients and the community projects. And you can see a lot of those are moving along. We'll talk about your 20 community projects, I think item number 29. If there's any questions on the status of those projects, happy to talk through those. Big picture, there's about 2.7 million unauthorized, so that still has to be allocated. And happy to talk through any of those.
I appreciate the color coding.
Oh, yeah.
It's very easy to understand.
Okay. Well, is there any individual consideration, or do you just want to take them together?
So let's see. Is there anything we need to physically approve on 27 or 28?
No, on 28, I'm going to actually have you approve the closeout report.
Okay.
But on 27, it's just an update of where you guys are on your projects.
Okay.
There are several that we do want to set a hard deadline in December to look at if they're not moving or if some project is being stalled out so that the P&G can reauthorize to other projects. The main concern is you're hitting that December 2024 deadline. And it's not just that you have to decide new projects, but contracts have to be in place. So several, let's back up 8 months to reassign to a new project, go out to bid to that project, and have a contract firmly in place by next December, which is why we're setting the hard deadline by this December for any projects that aren't moving.
And the biggest one of those is the 40 million, correct?
Yes, you have about a third of your funds in that project, and then another $10 million in the remodel, the social distancing remodel.
So on item 27, I will move to receive your report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And now on item 28, we're actually going to close out several projects, which is really exciting. That means those projects are fully expended. So in total, big picture, you guys have 80 projects. 152 of that has been allocated and authorized by BOCC. We have 23 we're going to talk about today, as well as 17 million that's been expended. So that means checks out the door. Those are fully expended. That's only about 11% of your full 154. So that's not super far, but we have to get that fully to 100% by 2026. And then remaining to be authorized is the 2.7 million. Part of that reason is you have a significant amount of capital projects. So those are just going to take a lot longer to move out the door and get fully expended. So this is some of those projects that have those no expenditures, just kind of high level of all your 80 projects where they're at today. We did talk about the 1/3 of your total funding is in 2 projects. And then that policy recommendation of any unobligated projects or projects that aren't moving in December to start deciding how to reobligate those projects. And this was just a reminder of all the process of how these came in. They were recommended, they were authorized, and today we're in that purple, we're doing the closeout. So these are all your county projects that we're going to close out today. Of this is $5 million in expenditures. Most of this was those one-time expenditures of a county IT project, COVID testing, the benefits, and the premium pay. And not that I necessarily need to walk through every single one of these in detail, but the big thing that you need to know is in that purple box of what's been validated. So it's validated that it was purchased, that there are no more purchases coming in, that all the invoices are in the compliance file, and the goods were received is in the compliance file. And then that the next steps there, we also have to continue to track metrics for your annual report and your quarterly report. Some of these were one-time purchases, so they just had one-time output measure. We won't continue to measure that through the life of this 2026. And then some of your projects do have ongoing measures. And what Treasury really said is they wanted an output measure and an outcome measure. Not all of these had a great outcome measure. So how is the county better off because you made this investment? So what we try to do work with each department is to track those output measures. In your annual report that lives on your website, that 100-page report has each one of these output measures as well. So here was the disaster hardware recovery replacement. As you can see, all of that was closed out. The output was it was fully implemented. This was the county COVID test. All of this is closed out. The output was a 750 test ordered. And all of this, again, if you ever want to know about this, lives on your website and is required to be public, these outputs and outcomes. And then all of these medical claims, over 3,000 medical claims. You'll see a couple of these, but they're different reporting period or different periods. Your county IT project, the Pantera. You'll see the output here was that the 100% of the network was assessed, as well as some vulnerability reports were pulled over the year. As well as the secret server, 100% of administrative credentials were stored. The Q radar, this is how many logging incidents have happened to date over the year. Again, another medical claims. This is how many medical claims happened during that period. This was the cremation of indigent population. You can see here this included 7 cremations. Again, another benefits. This is those claims during that period. This was 4 laptops, 3 laptops and 3 employees that was purchased. Again, another medical claims. This was the premium pay for the 669 workers. So that wraps up the county projects. I'm now going to go to your subrecipient projects. All of these are the detention center projects, and this is about $1 million to close out. So this was for the Avalon system. This is for the new camera system. And as a reminder, this was qualified because it was contact tracing. So the way we're validating that is to pull contact tracing reports. So they sent us this contact tracing report, and there were 205 contact traces in the month of June. For the detention center, again, COVID testing. Here we have over 6,000 tests were purchased. For PPE, both masks and gloves were purchased. This was for a quarantine pod, so that for those who came in during the period, you could be quarantined for a while to make sure you didn't test for COVID, and then could be released into the population. So you could see here, this was what was purchased to create that quarantine pod. And then a fingerprint scanner. What we're tracking is, and the reason this qualified is that you can expedite the intake process and get fewer people in the intake process. So this was reduction of 4 to 5 minutes for the intake process. Previously, it had taken 10 minutes. This is the full body scanner. The same rationale, came in, fewer people sitting around, and then you could have more distancing. Over this period of time, which is more than a year, it was used over 31,000 times. This was a deep clean that happened, a one-time deep clean of the facility was 28 pods and 5 elevators were deep cleaned. This was to purchase COVID testing. Here's how many COVID tests were purchased. This is to purchase gloves. You can see over 130,000 gloves were purchased. Face mask, 6,000 face masks were purchased. Again, COVID testing, 1,000 tests were purchased. So that are the 23 projects that have been fully expended. We are tracking, if it was a lot of these were one-time purchases, we're tracking those one-time purchases. If there's something else that we can track, either an output or an outcome long-term, we're going to continue to track that in your annual report. And I have one other thing, but I want to make sure you guys have no other questions on the closeouts. All right, it's exciting when we get to close out some projects. We still have a long way ahead of us, but and so just a reminder, because we start to get questions. I've purchased something with Treasury funds. Now, if I'm not using it, or if I go to sell it, what are the rules that I have to remember? So this is the disposition rules. So all equipment over $5,000 has to be continued to be used for the reason that it was purchased until December of 2026. So that's the reporting period. If that changes at any point and it's not being used for the reason that it was eligible, it requires repayment back to Treasury. So just that reminder that all equipment that is purchased needs to be continued to be purchased for the reason that it was deemed eligible. But if it's equipment less than $5,000, that can be retained or sold or otherwise disposed of without any additional rules. So what happens after 2026 if I bought a vehicle or an equipment? How can I dispose of that? So if sold at any point, either before December 2026 or after 2026, you can sell that vehicle and or equipment or any equipment, and the use of that funding can be used to offset a cost of that replacement property. So if I've purchased a bunch of vehicles, now I'm going to sell it for a small percentage, I can go purchase more vehicles for that same use. But if you're going to sell it and then use those funds for something else, those funds have to be then repaid back. So the main goal here is to use the funds on anything sold to replace something else. And we're also sending this out in this reminder. This is also in the closeout report when all the directors go to close it out, just a reminder about these disposition rules. And so then if you're also using equipment, because some of the equipment is being used for other purposes outside why it was deemed eligible. And so the main thing here is some of these have a primary purpose and an ancillary purpose. For example, the cameras. They're both being used for COVID testing and for security. So as long as we continue to track that it's still being used for the reason that it was deemed eligible, then that is valid. And the way we're doing that is we're validating and collecting those reports and keeping it in your quarterly report. So that is the end of item number 28. Any questions? There's a lot more in that deck, but this is just the old appendix items of a reminder of why it was deemed eligible.
If there's no questions, is there a motion?
I will move to receive Jamie's report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Or do I need to move to approve the official closeout of the items?
You can do both.
Can I make my motion, move to receive and to close out the proposed items? Okay.
Okay,
And
29?
was there an attachment for 29 that you're able to pull up? Now we're going to also talk about the community projects. And because this is a PDF, will I be able to click through it or you? Okay. I'll do better today on. So if we go to the next slide, big picture, you have 20 community projects. And the reason that number looks higher, that 8.4 million, because that includes your 4.9 million for community projects, your 1.5 million for Griffin, and your 2 million for Home Finance Authority. So that's your total of 8.4. So then you can see most of your community projects we've put in the low risk category. You have 2 that we've put into the medium risk category, and I'll show you those in a little bit. Mostly that has to do with their familiarity with federal funds, high turnover in the project, and not being confident in some of the compliance requirements. So then if you go to this bar graph way at the bottom, what that says is that you have 0.7 still remaining in community projects to be allocated. You have 2 million that has gone out the door and has been paid to the Home Finance Authority. And then you have 5.7 million that we're still working through to get all the contract signs, which I'll walk through here in a minute, and will likely go out of this fund within the next month. So, oh, thank you. And just one back, thank you. And so in big picture, you have 13 contracts that either went on BOCC last week or are going to be on BOCC today. We have sent those EFT forms, and the reason there between the difference is Home Finance already had that form. We have 3 that we're still working on getting their information and are not ready to move forward with the contract at the moment. 1 signed, which is our Home Finance by both parties, and 1 that has received funds, which is Home Finance. So then if you go to this next one, thank you. This is just to show you what all of these will show you is the project name. So Affordable Housing Partners, which was the organization, Home Finance, and all the steps that we had to take to get them to make sure that they get their funding. So we have a contract. The contract was sent to the DA, then put on BOCC's agenda. Then we received the EFT form that went to accounts payable. Then we got the subrecipient to sign their contract. And then if we had any additional pending information. So you can see this one with Home Finance has been, everything is executed and the funding has gone to the organization. Now we'll go to the next one. These were all the ones that you saw on your agenda last week. All now what we're doing is we're getting the subrecipient to sign the contract. We have set up individual meetings with most of them to walk through, at least everyone on this, to walk through what that means when they're signing the subrecipient agreement. We also previously had a compliance training on their procurement requirements as well as ongoing reporting requirements. But this is also just to make sure before they sign their contract, they understand everything that they're signing in the contract. The only one we have a no here is for Hope, and we're currently working with them because they had previously purchased a vehicle, and we want to make sure that we validate it was competitively procured because it's a threshold where you need to get 3 bids. Because it was being outfitted for a very specific reason, we're helping them write a memo on why it wasn't competitively procured. They did ask several vendors to do this and only got 1 that was willing to respond. So we wanted to make sure that that gets validated before we have them sign their contract. So those are those 8. And then if we go to the, I'm still clicking like I can click. If we go to the next one, these are the 5 that you will see after this agenda item. So we are at the phase where they're getting ready to sign. The next step will have the subrecipient sign the agreement. We will meet with all of them to make sure that they know what they're signing, and then they will get their funding. Then we'll go to the next set. These are 4 that we are still working on. Placekeepers, we had a couple of meetings with them. Really exciting what they're doing. They get to they have to choose what affordable housing category that they want this to apply under, and so they're trying to choose the category that will have the least resistance for them. So I think we're in a really good place. They just want to choose which category they apply for, and Home Finance has been very helpful sharing this information with them. I just saw a North Care information come in yesterday. We also have a meeting with Remerge. I think that information will be very soon, and then as well as Community Health Center. So just as of last week, when we put these items on the agenda, these hadn't moved as far. You will probably see most of these coming up in a very soon BOCC meeting. And then also wanted to highlight Remerge, Urban League, NEOKC, and Griffin received SLFRF funding from another entity. So we just need to make sure that what the county is paying for and what another entity is paying is not a duplication of benefits. I have no concerns, but we did meet with the other entities to make sure that what you are funding and what another entity is funding is not the exact same. Okay, now we'll go to these last three. So these are the ones that we're still working with. We actually have a meeting set up with New Day Recovery this afternoon to really walk through their projects. This federal funds is new to them, but we want to really walk through and make sure they understand everything. Really great work. FAM just got a new executive director, so it just took some time to get that through. And then the state fair as well. I know this is a very, very busy time for them. So that one you may see in a little bit.
I think the fair starts tomorrow. Yeah.
So all of these you may not see right away, but we are working through. Just want to make sure you guys knew the status of those projects if you get called on any of these projects. All right, so that gets us through all the projects. So now if we go to the next slide, it's monitoring. So what does this mean? What's the responsibility for the county now that you guys have given these great community projects their funding? What do we have to continue to do? So we have to continue to monitor them, and this is something that's in your compliance framework, and report. And so this is why we've ranked them into 3 different categories. The low-risk categories are those organizations that were very familiar with federal funds. They have not a lot of staff turnover. They've had a previous audit and it was clean, and we put them in the low-risk category. And so they immediately got their funds. After we sign the contract, they will get the full amount into their bank account. So we need to continue to monitor that they did it. They're purchasing what they said they would purchase. And if you look at the very, very back of the contracts, there's a very detailed budget that we had all the subrecipients sign on what they were going to spend their funding on. And so once a year, we will do a random sampling of their expenditures. So you said you were going to spend $100,000 and you were going to spend it on X, Y, and Z. Now we need to randomly sample that. And so we told them all this when we did our compliance training. And then we'll also do an annual site visit to make sure, and also to validate the great work that the funding that you guys allocated is happening. So that's the low risk. The medium risk, the main difference here, they still have random sampling, but it's quarterly, but they're only eligible for a reimbursement basis. So I have spent $20,000, now county pay me $20,000. And then the last one is that high risk category. So not only do you have to send an invoice, but you have to send an invoice, you have to send a proof of payment, you have to send making sure that all the equipment was purchased and is in your facility, and then as well as an annual site visit. And then if you go to this next one, what this means, this would be our monitoring checklist. So that once a year random sampling of expenditures and site visit, what we would do is we would want to make sure that we have, if you go to the before desk review, before site visits, we'll ask them to either have the project sponsor or the procurement or the finance person that we can talk to. We'll get updates on the project, so if they have any photos about the work that's been happening, the demographic information, because that's really important for reporting to make sure if they're serving a disproportionately impacted community that we're tracking those statistics, as well as their procurement information on what they've procured, and then marketing materials on how they're advertising the work they're doing to their community. And all of that we'll put into your annual report, and part of that in the community engagement section. And then all of these activity, and then we'll ask them when we're on site, what issues or challenges are you facing? Do you have any delays that may be happening? How many customers are you serving? What kind of rate? If you expected to serve 2,000 people, but you're only serving 50, is there anything we want to talk through? And what feedback are you getting from the community? As well as looking through procurement files while on site. So on this checklist, it looks like a lot of items, but it's mostly checking that the activities were allowed, that they're following the correct cost principles and cash management. If it's a construction project, I think there's 1 or 2 that are construction projects, that they're following Davis-Bacon, which means paying the prevailing wage. All the projects were deemed eligible. So, and when we went into their detailed budget, which is why we asked for the detailed budgets, those were eligible, but we'll just do another check while we're there. If they have any equipment over $5,000, so that same disposition rules that applies to the county applies to them, we'll validate that equipment. Do you guys still have it? We will track that. Are you on track to spend this by 2026? Look through their procurements. If they are making income on what they bought their project, that they're tracking that income, we will make sure they got their quarterly reports in on time, and special provisions, site visits, what we're doing. And then if they have to follow Title VI, we'll validate that they have that. So that's what we would ask when we're on site in order that once an annual visit. And if you go to the next slide, thank you. This is what that would look like on a calendar. So if we lay out all of your projects over a year when we would do that. So those yellow are those low risk, that once a year random sampling. The orange is your medium risk, which it has a few more dots because it's a quarterly sampling. Your red is your high risk. Your green is the quarterly reports, when we have to submit those reports. And so the green is when they're due. A month before the quarterly reports, we'll have a compliance webinar for this very first reporting period. So none of your community projects will report until January because they won't get their funds before the end of this quarter, which is September 30th. We have two trainings scheduled before the next one, January, just so they feel absolutely comfortable before their first reporting period. But we will have quarterly compliance webinars. So big picture, that's what it'll look like to monitor your community projects ongoing. There's a lot more in the deck that just shows the low risk, medium risk, high risk, but all of this is combined into this slide. So that's an update on your community projects. That's all I have for you today, unless you have questions.
Thank you for being so organized. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Very thorough. I've been tracking that mostly through Jessica, but it was a great recap. Any questions? All right, is there a motion?
You said that there were 2 construction projects. North Care is one.
The state fair is also a construction project.
Okay.
And I don't know off the top of my head. There may be another one.
Then I will move to receive Jamie's report on item 29.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And the next couple of items are those subrecipient contracts. Happy to talk to any of those if you want.
So it's 31 through 34.
I think there's 5 items.
Let's see, hold on. Sorry, 30 through 34.
Yeah.
I will move approval of items 30 through 34.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Okay,
Commissioner.
Thank you, Jamie.
appreciate it very much. Infrastructure. Joe?
Commissioners, this is an item that you asked us to take a look at in a special meeting. It's to provide space in the short term for our 2 new judges. And what we're asking you to do is approve the build out of the old judicial library on the 3rd floor as chambers for one of those. The other judge will use the 7th floor, and the courtroom for the judge utilizing the 3rd floor will be the jury assembly room. So it's $35,000 is the estimated cost. And what we'll do is at budget board, we'll need an item that transfers from capital into a newly created line item for this build out. So you'll see that item at budget board.
And just for clarification, this is just chambers. This is not a courtroom.
That is correct, Commissioner. It's chambers, and they're hoping to have these 2 new judges on board by the end of November.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chantel? Or Nikki?
Good morning, Commissioners. Number 36, I think that we are asking to strike that item so that we can have further discussion on it, and we'll put that on a special P&G meeting to discuss it further.
Okay. I'll move to strike item 36.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Lastly, this is a grant that we are working on right now. That is a economic development grant. And this grant will serve many of our community partners in aiding with alleviating persistent economic distress and in a huge employment gap of individuals aged 25 to 54. We had a work group yesterday, and we had a lot of great ideas generated. And I believe that this will be a really, really great economic development and workforce development grant for Oklahoma County.
So my office has worked with Nikki and Colton, and
Nice.
they're putting this together. This is something that we're working with Boeing, people from Petroleum Alliance. I mean, there are a lot of partners
Nice.
here in Oklahoma City for this. This will be something that will impact us for many, many years, and we're really hoping to get this together. So Nikki, Colton, everybody involved, appreciate everything
Accenture.
that you guys did. Accenture,
nice.
Jamie, your team being in town to help as well. That was absolutely incredible yesterday when I stuck my head in. So thank you.
Great collaborative effort. Super proud of it.
So if we receive the funding, will have all the partners that will be involved already been identified, or will we need to do an RFP?
That's yet to be determined.
Okay.
The way
Okay.
that we'll do that. The partners haven't all been identified.
Okay.
We just brought people in to discuss and get some ideas to see who all and where all we could go to
Okay.
possibly put this together. As far as workforce development, it focuses on census tracts that need the most help, and we go from there. So,
Nice. No other questions?
all right. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you,
week.
Nikki.
Thanks, Nikki.
Good morning. Three contract renewals. The first one being number 38 is our radio contract with Oklahoma City. Had radio problems in the past, and this has absolutely solved those problems, moving to their infrastructure. So money well spent. It's allowed us to reduce some costs associated with personnel, and if something major breaks, it's on them. It's not on us anymore. So
Nice.
we're very happy with the way that's gone. 39 is our computer-aided dispatch system, which is the system that the dispatchers sit behind and allows them to manage calls and everything. And 40 is Caliber, which is our RMS system, records management system. It's reporting, it's charge packets, it's open records requests, all that stuff's much better than what it used to be. So nothing new, all renewals.
So 39 is the software, not the actual hardware, the equipment.
Yes, 39.
Okay.
Is there a motion to take them all?
I'll move approval on 38 through 40.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Treasurer has item 41. Mark, are you here to speak to that?
Short guy. Good morning. This is just a standard resolution creating an investment for the capital projects new jail fund that will give us a funding mechanism to capital projects new jail.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner comments, District 1. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, you may have seen yesterday that OSU Oklahoma City and the Department of Mental Health officially publicly announced that Griffin Memorial Psychiatric Hospital will be moving to the OSU OKC campus, and it will be renamed as the Donahue. Dr. Donahue was the first director of the Department of Mental Health, and I believe his grandson Cullen was there last night, and so that was pretty cool. But Dr. Shroom with OSU was there, and OSU is very excited to host Griffin, and Oklahoma County was invited because we are a partner. We have provided some funding through ARPA, and the state as well, and the city, and then of course many private entities and private foundations. So it was very exciting last night for them to finally announce it. Lots of news stations were there, and they had some renderings of what the hospital will look like, and there's going to be a children's side and an adult side. So it will be an incredible resource in Oklahoma City, and I think everyone is excited to see it finally be public.
3.
September 10th through 16th is also Truck Drivers Awareness Week. Let's think about them as they move our economy forward. Without them, it wouldn't happen. But September 11th happened also. We had another anniversary of that. And just take a moment this week sometime to turn around with somebody with a badge, firefighter and policeman. It's not only soldiers that protect you every day, it's also them. And just turn and say thank you.
Our thoughts and prayers with Jason Nelson for losing his wife this past week. The funeral's tomorrow from the clerk's office. And tomorrow is the beginning of the state fair, as has been mentioned. So that'll be exciting. Any new business? Is there a motion to recess into executive session?
I'll move we recess.
Second.
Well, is there any citizen to speak before, since we have some in the crowd? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to return to regular session.
I'll move we return.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Item 45, I move we proceed as discussed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And items 46 and 47, I move we disclaim, subject to any unpaid property taxes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, are there any citizens to be heard? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Everyone in?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call the PBA together. All three trustees are present. It was properly posted on September 12th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 5?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve the claims?
Move the claim.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 3. This is an agreement for services between SA Studio and the PBA for an ARPA project.
Motion to approve agreement.
Is Stacy up here? No. Can someone refresh my memory? Is this to the architectural services for the ICB?
Charles, do you know by chance from infrastructure on this item? The item up here, do you know about it from infrastructure?
Hey, Monroe.
Between SA Studio and the Public Buildings Authority of Oklahoma County for the move of district attorney to Investors Capitol Building. Is this,
This is ARPA related dollars funding small architects design work for the interior floors 1 through 5 of the Investors Capitol Building. $175,000.
okay, I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 4 is an agreement between Tradesman Architectural Studios to design and engineer the new elevators for Metro Parking and the Investors Capitol Building.
Motion to approve.
Second, all in favor?
I just had a quick question. We need architectural services for elevators?
Mm-hmm.
Who knew? Okay.
That's a very limited.
That's a niche.
It really is. It really
area.
is. When we interviewed the potential companies for this, there were only 2, and one was very qualified. That was Tradesman.
Okay.
Okay, one new parking space.
Move approval?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any citizens to be heard before the PBA? Any new business? Board comments? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You put SA, and I don't know what SA is. Small architecture would have known what it was. Yeah. I remember talking to